What's going on, Omnibuddies? Mitch here, and today we are doing a video that has been literally in the works for an entire year. Well, I guess 364 days because it's December 30th and we have one more day as of the filming of this video. So I have been reading comics all year, and we are doing my top 10 books that I read this year. All right, so first things first, these are the books that I read this year. That doesn't mean that they dropped this year or anything like that. In fact, the one caveat I will say, I read a ton of books that actually haven't come out yet that would be in my top 10 that, thanks Magnetic Press, I got to read early, but there are a couple in there that will be more than likely, as of now, definitely in my top 10 for 2024, but I did not include them because they are not actually out yet. But some of the books in here have been out for a lot longer than this last year. I just happen to have read them this year. So that's my caveat. But we're gonna start with number 10. So my, I guess my 10th favorite book, and we're gonna work up to my top book of the year. Now, if you've watched a couple of my other videos lately, you might know what my top book is. So I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler, but you probably don't have any idea what my other 9 books are. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna get right into it. We are going to start with Jeremy A. Bastian's Cursed Pirate Girl. This was on my reading list, my to buy pile for so long, always in my cart. I've been watching for a deal for it forever. It seems like I had eBay alerts set up, Mercari alerts set up, and finally I nabbed a copy for, it was like 10 bucks, and it's basically brand new. The book does not look new because it's made to look super worn and has these crazy cool like torn up edges on the paper. Super cool book. But I mean, if you want to see some of the art, oh my gosh, this art is so good. The story's super cool. If you are into pirates and curses and like big adventures, this book is incredible. Bastian just absolutely kills it. I love this book, treasured this book. I cannot wait for my girls to be able to grow up a little bit more and jump into this. So good. It took me, surprisingly, with how thin it is, took me a while to get through because there's a lot of text on the page and a lot of it's kind of in some crazy cursive. But so it gets a little bit difficult to read at some points. That's my only big issue with this book, is I really wish that this was in an absolute sized format book, because one, the art is so incredibly detailed that it deserves it, and two, the lettering is just a tiny bit small for me. Maybe I'm just getting old. That's probably really it. But anyways, this book was incredible. Number 10, just because it's number 10 does not mean it wasn't incredible, because I read a ton of books this year, and this book was friggin' phenomenal. All right, number 2, speaking of old books and speaking of absolute size, we have the Rocketeer slipcase oversized. It's not oversized, it's like absolute size collection. But this is by Dave Stewart. This is his entire run before he sadly passed away. But man, if you loved that pulpy action and noir and just crazy adventure, again, that adventure, I love adventure. You're gonna hear me talk about adventure a lot because I love it. I love like seeing people go out and have these crazy cool experiences. So fun. That doesn't mean don't go live your own experiences, but super cool. I grew up watching this movie, and so this was like straight out of the movie, some of it. The rest of it I was so excited to see because I had no idea on. And so there's some movie aspects. If you've seen that old 80s, is it 80s, 90s movie, friggin' awesome. But the slipcase is just gorgeous too. I mean, come on, like just beautiful. A beautiful collected edition of Stewart's work. Got a little reading ribbon on there. I tore through this book in a couple days. So good. Treasure this book. It is just such a great just action, has some great comedy in it. Really, really beautiful art, and all the extras at the end are just phenomenal to see how Stewart took like these pinup posters and modeled characters after them and people he knew. So cool to get into and see that that behind the scenes work of everything going on. Okay, so that was number 9. Number 8. Should I do like that? Number 8 is we're looking at Garth Ennis's and Steve Epting's Sarah. This comes to us from TKO. They finally put out some awesome hardcovers. They did Sentient, which almost made my list, but Sentient was great. I love Lemire. I love that art. But man, this book, I was kind of like, I'll choose one of the TKO books. This book was freaking awesome. Just, they basically took this picture of these female lady snipers from the war and basically wrote a story about them and what it is. And man, so it centers on Sarah, the one of the main snipers from this book, and kind of goes through their whole thing of snipering, counter snipering, tactics, and just all the craziness that went into this war and World War II, I think it was. And man, this book was great. And also, I mean, the bind is amazing. It's got that red crimson gilding on the edges. I don't think it's, yeah, it is metallic. I don't know if you could see it on there or not, but it is metallic. Really nice. Sentient has blue, which is super cool. But yeah, really great book, really great war story. If you like war and history and you want to see some ladies kicking butt, man, this book is friggin' awesome. We'll be excited for my daughters when they're teens to be able to jump into this book and get some great ladies doing some crazy things in the war. All right, so that was number 10, 9, 8. So we are on number 7. Wow, I'm losing track here. So this book comes to us from Magnetic Press. It was a book that I got to kind of help market and do comms for and run a bunch of Kickstarter stuff. I got to read this book and give some feedback. And man, this, Chris Northrup and Mark Shea did an amazing job with an anthology. And I don't really normally like anthologies, but man, Black Box Chronicles was so good. And this finally just shipped a little while ago. And we have, so this slipcase, which is super cool, by the way, it like magnets shut, magnetic press, magnet shut. Let's see if you can hear it. Anyways, super cool slipcase edition with that foil on there on both sides. Really nice. That's by Magnetic Press and Horrible Future. Inside you have the actual anthology book and a design space by Shane Molina. And I just dropped a video previous to this one. Whole interview with Shane over in Hawaii. Love that guy. That dude is crazy good concept artist and an amazing guy too. But he did the cover for the trade paperback, which this is the hardcover version, and this is by David Mack, who just absolutely killed it too. Look at that. It's like a spaceship in there, which took me forever to realize that it was a spaceship, like the rockets on the side, the little rocket boosters, and it's taking off, and the sun, moon, and all that. Super cool. But this is just telling the story of the black boxes, which is like captures your life, your thoughts, your soul, maybe, in your end moments into these black boxes. So like black boxes in our world right now capture the final moments and all that flight recording data. Well, this is kind of like your soul and memory data into a black box. And so it's telling this anthology series of all these different stories. I think there's 13, if I'm remembering correctly. But man, this has an all-star crazy cast of creators, writers, artists on here, not just David Mack on the cover, but man, you got like Shea Northrup writing a bunch of it. You got Mack, Oming, Howard, Donovan, Federa, Smith, Toru Terada, Messina, Drew Moss, Dabari, Soma, man, Michael Russell, Shane McManus, Dispenza, man, just so many great creators in here, and art styles and stories, and just, I mean, oof, So good. I have an overview of both of these books on my site too. So if you want to see, actually, I think I did an overview for every single one of these books, at least in a series. I haven't done one for Sarah yet. That is on my to record an overview pile. I have an actual pile for what I need to record overviews from, and I'm way behind on that. That series is great. Definitely go check it out. Okay, this one now comes to us. What is this? What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. Number six is the third book in this series, and I had been waiting for this forever. Again, one of my favorite creators. We talked about him earlier, Jeff Lemire, and one of my absolute favorite artists, Dustin Nguyen. This series was great. I love space, like Black Box and all that. Love space, love adventure. Crazy cool book. Beautiful, really good writing. I love the first 2 books in the series. I'm talking about Ascender. So this is, it's Ascender. So it's kind of the third installment of the Descender series. So there's Descender Volume 1 and 2, and then there's Ascender Volume 3. And this series is so good. My only wish and sad part about this book is that it seems like Volume 1 and 2 of Descender were great, amazing paced. Ascender was too fast paced for me. They kind of smushed it all together. I'm like, man, I wish they had taken a little bit more time and done a Volume 1 and 2 of Ascender and just had a 4-book series, because I could have stayed in this world forever. So freaking cool. Love space, love the whole AI and space battles and factions and all that stuff. These books have it. Such a great series, telling like Tim 21 and like his story, and then the human story. Oh man, it's so good. It's like more of like a AI space opera that is like Saga, which is Saga's like the space opera, but it's more humanized with a lot of aliens. But Ascender and Descender are like more like AI versus human space opera. Very cool. And then bringing it back down, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5, we have old-timey, super pulpy again. We're going back to pulp, just like Rocketeer. But we are talking the Mignola-verse. I finally was self-corrected on that. Apparently, it's not Mignola, it's Mignola, something like that. Hopefully, I'm doing that right now. But the Mignola-verse, Hellboy, BPRD, Witchfinder, Baltimore. I mean, just all those books in there. And then finally got Volume 1 and 2 Omnibus of Lobster Johnson. Dang, are these books awesome. So great. I just love pulp mystery and like these old like action sci-fi pulpy heroes. Really fun. Volume 1 is more of like a bunch of stories, and then Volume 2 jumps into like this longer story, but this really sets up the character. So Volume 1 and 2 are both really good together, read together. I'm not sure that you can find Volume 1 right now in a hardcover format, but if you can, jump on it, because man, Lobster Johnson, the Claw, is just friggin' awesome. There's a reason why Hellboy himself is obsessed with this guy, because he's like a PI, mystery solver, and superhero, and like action hero, all just blended together into one. Such a fun book. There's like sci-fi, so science fiction meets like occultists and just all this crazy stuff. Very in the Hellboy universe, but definitely its own thing. And you don't actually have to know anything really about the Hellboy universe. You can just jump straight into those and be totally fine. So now we are getting to my top books of the year. So I've been doing Dark Horse, Magnetic Press, we've got, I think it was IDW, we've got Arcadia, we've got all these different smaller publishers. Now you might be surprised, because my channel's all about, seems to be more focused and focusing itself in on these smaller, independent, non-big two books. But this year I read a book from one of the big two, and it was actually DC, which is typically one of my like my last of the big two. Like I'm always kind of pushing towards Marvel, it seems like, but man, some of these one-off books from DC that you can just jump into, friggin' phenomenal. And DC had one this year about a lady, and she's BA. We're talking Catwoman, Lonely City. Wow. This book by Cliff Chang, gorgeous, beautifully told, like beautifully rendered, and even more beautifully told. This book was a quick read, but you wanted to take your time through it. It was just so cool to see like Catwoman as she's kind of aging up a little bit, and she's, you know, dealing with her body starting to fall apart from years of being Catwoman, and she gets out of prison and she's struggling to find who she is outside of being Catwoman, and can she even do that, or is her entire identity in Catwoman, or can she be Selena Kyle too? Man, this book just so good. The art is just outstanding, just so beautiful. I friggin' love it. I think I got the DM variant of the cover. Even the like hardcover is just gorgeous underneath, just that simple black with her on there. So good. This book, tore through it, and it stuck with me for a long time. And when I was going through trying to pick out my top 10 and going through all the books that I read this year on Goodreads. I'm on Goodreads, by the way, Omnibuddy. So if you want to hook up with me, head on over to Goodreads and hook up with me. You can see what I'm reading. But I was going through my reading pile of what I read this year, and I was like, Catwoman, Lonely City. How could I have forgotten that one? Because it is so good. Oh man, so great. All right, so now we are in my top three. If you're watching Glorious Bastards, top 3 books of the year. And you know what? We're going to stick with DC. And another lady of DC, and another kind of one-off standalone book. This book, wow. Like, the art in this book was probably some of the best comic art I have ever seen, bar none, anytime, anywhere. Wow. Like, Phil Jimenez absolutely crushed it on art here for Kelly Sue DeConnick in Wonder Woman Historia. Wow. This book was like incredible. Absolutely. I think I've used incredible quite a bit in this video, but wow, this book just blew me away. Like, you see the back cover and the front, and you're like, oh wow, that's really good art. That's, you know, that doesn't really represent it. And I was actually looking at the other cover too. I was very torn between 2 dust jackets, whether to get the DM variant or the regular. I think this is the regular. The DM variant was just a little too busy for me. I just really like the simplicity of Diana on there. But you know what? I had to go with it just because it was so simple. But man, that DM variant was very, very representative of what's in that book. But this book, wow. Like, if you want to get some good history of Wonder Woman and the Amazons. I mean, this book's mostly about just the Amazons and their genesis, which is, you know, the history behind Wonder Woman. But she's in here very little, actually. But this book, holy bejesus, like every page on this is just like absolutely incredible. There are some, like, I mean, look at that. Come on. Wow. And then I'm trying to find some of those like big splash pages. Wow. Like fighting Hercules. Like, come on. Like, the detail that he puts into these pages is just, I cannot fathom how long it takes him. I'm trying to find some of those big splash pages. I cannot fathom how long it takes him to actually do one of these pages. I skipped them all. Come on. Oh, yeah, there we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. What in the world? I have never seen such detailed art as this. Like, just, I mean, you just stop at every page and you're just staring in awe. And then the story by Kelly Sue is just beautifully told, and just a wonderful, interesting, captivating story that like I wasn't expecting that good of a story out of this. I'm like, oh, the history of, the Amazons, like it'll be cool and all that, but so much more than I expected. All right, I blathered on that one quite a bit. Now, my number 2 book of the year. This book totally took me by surprise. I was like, oh, it's going to be pretty cool. It's by Matt Kindt. He's a great creator. He's solid. His art is super cool. I grabbed this book because I was like, you know what? I should probably... He ran a deal where it was like pretty cheap and you could get the assigned sketched version of it. And I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I got a copy from Dark Horse sent to me, and because I was like somewhat interested in it, but I wasn't going to commit to buying a book that, the signed sketch when I hadn't read it yet. And I was like, well, I'll just get this book from Dark Horse, sent it to me, blew me away. Could not put this book down, could not stop thinking about this book after I read it. And I was like, okay, I got to reach out and see if they happen to have, it was like 50 copies that they did signed sketched versions of. And I was like, I got to reach out and just pray for a miracle that they have any left. And I went to their site and they're sold out. I was like, no. And then I reached out to them, and they looked into it, and they had one copy that hadn't sold that they're like keeping back or something like that. They hooked me up with it for Super Spy. Oh man, y'all, this book is just packed with amazing art, really, really cool spy and like thriller stories and mysteries, and all the crazy stuff Kindt puts into his books, like at the end. And then this entire book, like not only is the cover with all these letters on it and this little cipher on here in East, like just, it's all Easter eggs everywhere. Like you can find different words and things. And apparently, like if you go to a con and you hand him this, he's got different things he'll punch out on here to give even more of a cipher, to give even more of stuff. It's just crazy, crazy cool stuff. The stories all seem like separate, like just talking about different spy things going on and just telling different stories of spies and things happening in the war. And then as you're reading through it, you realize all these stories are starting to intertwine and culminate. And it is so cool. It is so well done. And then here's my signed sketched copy. Very cool. Man, I love those, like it's two-tone art with the gold signature. So good. So that is my number 2. So then I got super into Matt Kindt just from that, and I went out and I bought a ton of Matt Kindt stuff. And actually the last book I've bought this year is Matt Kindt and part of the Super Spy series. There's Spy Superb, and then I found out there's 2 sisters, which are like in these books. There's a book called 2 Sisters. And so I just picked that up from a local comic shop that was running a sale. And so that is in the mail for me to arrive probably sometime next week. So it'll be like my first book that I get of 2024. Really excited about that. All right. So my last book, my top number 1 book of the year, if you've watched Omar's end of the year Christmas video with all of us creators in it. By the way, thanks Omar for letting me be a part of that. You know what my number 1 book of the year is. If you haven't read that, but you've maybe watched a couple videos ago, one of my overviews, you know that my number 1 book of the year is Manifest Destiny, brought to us by Image Comics and written by Chris Dangus, art by Matthew Roberts. Wow. So this is, I'm a sucker for alternative history or history books, just like Super Spy and all those books. And like that's, got a lot of real stuff he pulls from there. Dave Stewart pulling like historical posters and actresses and actors and things like that, pulling all that in. And then, so I'm a super big sucker for historical context and really big sucker for alternative history when they kind of rewrite history and things that happened, which is why I just finished reading Department of Truth. That was a great book too, and they kind of bend and distort history and reality. Super cool book too, super cool concept. Overview of that coming pretty soon, hopefully. But Manifest Destiny was a book that when I first started reading, really reading comics, just over 10 years ago, this was one of the first books outside of the big two that I started reading. I started picking up in single issues, and I was just absolutely blown away. I had no idea comics could be that cool and creative outside of the big two. And man, then after, I don't know, I think I got about 10, 12 issues into it, and then I switched to collected editions only, so I dropped my pull list and I stopped reading single issues. And I have waited nearly 10 freaking years for this series to be collected in a hardcover. I know that there's a volume 1 of the first trade paperback that's in a hardcover, but that's standalone, and it's hard to find, and it was a con exclusive, and then the rest of the series isn't in a matching hardcover either. So I have been waiting very impatiently for this series to be collected, and this collects volumes or issues 1 through 24 in volume 1, and I know volume 2 is coming out that'll collect the other 24 issues. And oh man, this series is so good, just following Lewis and Clark on their journey to the west to explore, to establish contact with tribes and just figure out what's going on in the west. And while that was all true, this book lays out exactly what the underlying plan was, which was to make it safe because there were other things in the West, and they were monstrous, and they were horrible, and they have to go through it and figure it out. And man, a lot of people die in this book. A lot of craziness happens. It's like legends, with Sasquatch type stuff, and then you end up getting into poltergeisty, demon, supernatural stuff. Crazy cool book. Sacagawea is in here, and she is just an utter BA, and she's so cool. So yeah, friggin' love this book. Really cool art. Open it up, show you, but I mean, man, this art is just so well done. I love the color palettes. And it's got 4 major arcs in here that you follow through. And man, it is just such a great story. This was my number 1. I mean, it deserves it with its writing and art, but I had been waiting for this book for so long. There was no choice but to put this into my number 1. And especially after reading some of it and waiting for so long, it delivered. Anyways, that's my number 1. But anyways, that was my top 10 list. Super fun, super difficult. There are so many great books that I wanted to include, but I had to cut. So, it is what it is. And, after finishing this video, I'll probably be like, I should have put that book in there or that book in there, but is what it is. And you got to make a choice at some point and put pen to paper or video file to YouTube. I don't know, whatever. But here it is. That's my top 10 as of now, as of this minute. Probably change before I even post this video. Who knows? Anyways, that's it. Let me know in the comments what your top 10 or maybe top 5 if you don't want to do a top 10. Let me know what your top books are of the year that you read. Doesn't have to have come out this year, just like mine, but top 10 books that you read this year that absolutely blew you away. Maybe make it a long post and let me know why those books, maybe read a little bit about it, so that we can all discover some great books out there. I know a lot of people are putting out their top 10 lists right now, so this is just mine. But let me know what yours are in the comments, and we can all find some great, interesting, different books that are out there that we may have missed and can be on our top 10 list of 2024 going forward. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, do all those things. But like I say, the most important thing to do is comment. Let me know your top 10 books of the year. It has been an amazing 2023. The channel's been awesome. Reading books has been awesome. My family's been great. Work's been crazy. But you know what? This community has grown. Just all the YouTubers I've met out there. It's been super fun. So I love you guys. Love this community. Take care. Stay cool.